Who here likes aerial acrobatics, reckless endangerment of oneself, reality TV type drama, and some pretty fine girls?
God, I love it.
Now, if any of you are interested in the things I just said, you should probably watch professional wrestling. Alright? Wrestlers aren't just juiced up meatheads, they're showmen and athletes and the so-called ultimate entertainers. Most people watch reality television. I'm guessing most of you guys do too. Jersey Shore or Real World or any of that. Some of you guys have to. I already know. Don't lie about it. Okay. And well, pro wrestling is like reality TV on steroids. Pro wrestling may be scripted, but it takes intense physical training and a lot of endurance to be able to do what those athletes do. And yes, they are athletes. Pro wrestling is scripted, yet it's one of the most entertaining shows to watch. These athletes throw caution to the wind and risk it all to give the audience a good show. Now, wrestlers have a higher injury rate than any other professional athlete, and they succumb to too many injuries because they constantly perform. They perform 6 or 7 days a week, like non-stop, every night. Now, just because you see it like, okay, Monday night, they still have to do the same show over and over again, and do the same moves over and over, and it takes a toll on them. The finishing moves and top rope moves have to be scripted, because if they weren't, they would severely injure themselves. And one example of a wrestler getting injured is a guy named Joey Mercury. He was maimed during one of his fights, one of his matches. So I'm going to pull that up right now.
Not made for everyone. This is from the ladder match. Watch Jeff Hardy. That ladder nearly decapitating Joey Mercury. The way that Mercury is look at that. Look how quick the blood is flowing. Look at this slow-mo. Look at this ladder right into his face.
Alright, he got beat up pretty bad. These are some of the finishing moves they do. Guys just go upside down and slam on top of people. That's Joey Mercury's face after that ladder hit his face. He's permanently scarred up like that, and it's never going to get any better than that. The show also has to be scripted, just to make it a better show for all the fans. There's always like expert showmen. The guy from the blue is named Ric Flair, and any of you guys, I'm guessing most of you guys know if you ever watched the show once or twice. He's been around for years, like 18-time champion within like the WWE. And the guy below him, Shawn Michaels, was a part of a group called the Generation X, and he's been around for 18 years, but both of them are retired now. To wrestlers, it's no pain, no gain, but to be able to handle that type of beating on their bodies, they have to train to be at the peak physical condition. Now, wrestlers prepare themselves for years before they can enter the ring. There are various wrestling schools all over the world, but one of them that stands out the most is called the Hart Dungeon. How do you make the, It's famous because it's known for being an incredibly intense school. The school is actually underneath the mansion inside the basement. And it's hotter than heck down there because there's no air conditioning, and they train for hours on end a day. Wrestling is a big part of my life, or it was for a while, because I'm related to 2 professional wrestlers. Well, one at the moment. Their name's Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero. And steroids is another big part of professional wrestling. You can see my cousin Eddie up there in the corner. Wasn't always that big of a dude. He was actually a pretty scrawny guy, but once he started competing, he got very big. And unfortunately, in 2005, he overdosed on steroids and died. This is Eddie. This is his nephew Chavo. Both of them are my cousins. Chavo still wrestles today. But the use of steroids in professional wrestling is frowned upon and is not condoned, but it is not harshly regulated in other sports because it's kind of expected for the competitors to use them, because it's the only way for their bodies to be able to use, to take the toll. And pro wrestling is fake, but yet is very entertaining. And pro wrestling is an amazing show to watch if you can get into it. To see people be able to risk severe injury for the crowd's amusement is unbelievable. And, that's the end of my speech, and thanks for listening.
So Dee, what did you think?
I really liked the opener. It was kind of a rhetorical question, but at the same time, it got everyone interacting at the same time. I really liked the video clip. It wasn't exceedingly long, but it did show the hit a few times at a few different angles. I really liked watching it in slow motion. Everything was better in slow motion. I didn't actually know that there was a school for the wrestling, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I watched the fighting and the wrestling, and I think it's very funny. So I didn't know there was actually a school for it. And I thought overall it was just pretty good. It was kind of entertaining. I think everyone at some point has watched it or played the video game years and years ago. So I thought it was really good.
All right. You've got an energetic opening question. It's so broad, but it does get everybody involved, and I like the way you kind of pull everybody together with the topic, and I think that that's good. You're doing too much reading in that opening section, and you really want to be talking to the audience, especially when you've got that kind of energetic, open-ended question. Thought you did okay when asking the question, but then right after that, it was like back to looking at your notes. You need to have a clearer goal of what you're going to be talking about during the presentation. It seemed to me, I know what the topic area is, but where are you going with this topic area? And it's hinted at pretty strongly that this kind of wrestling really is all of these kinds of things. It requires great athleticism, performing ability, a different set of skills. It involves, dedication and hard work and all those kinds of things. And I really want to tell you about how wrestling ought to be valued or treasured or seen at a more respectable level than being dismissed as just reality show TV programming kind of stuff. And so there is a point there, but it needs to be a lot more clearly focused. I got the same problem here that I had with an earlier speech. Once you get into the material, it's all over the place. I mean, I'm getting a lot of stuff, and there's nice examples, and here's some visualizations, but there's no connection with that material. It all just sort of runs together. There aren't clear transitions between the points. I'm listening to, stuff about steroids right after I'm hearing stuff about, going to the school, and, you're telling us about your cousins, and it just feels like everything is being mixed together in a blender, and it doesn't always come out as smoothly as it ought to as a consequence. You need to have some kind of pattern here. Either walk us through the process. Let's say we wanted to become wrestlers ourselves. Well, walk us through the process. What would we have to do? How would we get into this business? What kinds of things are we going to have to plan on learning? Okay, well then there's a series of steps that you would go through and do it that way. Or if you want to divide it up topically, let's just talk about the comparisons that you were making at the beginning. How is it like an aerial show? How is it like a reality show? How is it like athleticism? Okay, well, let's talk about the aerial kinds of things. You show us some moves. You show us a couple of clips of the things that go on there. How do they do training for that sort of thing? How is it like a reality show? Well, give us some examples of how the characters are bigger than life, or that some of the things can't be scripted, and it's improvised or it's dramatic, and those kinds of things. How is it athletic? Well, you got to have strength. You've got to be able to do these kinds of things. Here's the kind of training that's involved. Give us some kind of structure for the information, and then it'll build and be easier for us to understand what we're getting. As it is, I mean, it's interesting, and we're getting a lot of stuff, but it's not being put together like a speech. It's sort of like a stream of consciousness. If I was having a conversation with you over lunch and you just start talking about things randomly, I'd have an interesting conversation, but it doesn't make as good a speech as it should. And so it needs some work in that regard. All right. And boy, the exit, it just seemed like it showed up and you were done. Let me hit the brakes and bail out of this car as quick as possible. And I think you need a smoother exit too. All right. Thank you very much.